Myself. Sorry about that. Hi. All right. You should be able to hear now. Hi, Rebecca. Sound check. Yep, I had muted myself. Oh, hi. Somebody on Instagram. Hello, sweetheart. That firewalk with me at Star Wolves. That's cool. I'm going back to Star Wolves to do another firewalk. Hey, Carol. Good to see you. Okay, good. Yeah, I just pressed the wrong button. Let me set this up. So today is day 4 of our anti-resolution challenge that I do every year. Hey, Terry. And we are going live and exploring today's topic, which is around the darker side, the shadows, talking about the shadows of our strategy. Glad that you're here. And I'm currently in upstate New York at my dear friends, Mark and Onyx, hanging out with Onyx, who we've known each other forever. So it's just been so fun. And they just bought this incredibly beautiful, beautiful house, as you can see partially behind me. So, hey, Jennifer. So happy to be live with you here today. Yes, Rebecca. So question, is there a place where I can view videos 1 to 3? So wherever you're tuning in from, you're on Facebook, Rebecca. Hi. I'm in beautiful Moravia right now. That wherever you're tuning in from, so either Instagram or Rebecca, you're on Facebook, if you go into the live videos, they're all posted there. So all the lives are posted. And then also, if you're not part of the anti-resolution challenge, hey, Tracy, please go join. You can join anytime. We're on day 4, but you'll get the previous videos and you'll have time to watch them. So antiresolutionchallenge.com. Let me share it. Boom. And that anti-resolution challenge is a 7-day challenge that you get when you sign up for free. You get a little video and a teaching. And again, it's not too late. Even if you join today, you'll still get the past videos that you can review. They're short, and we're going through talking about what does it mean when we get stuck in our strategies. And today we're exploring how those cost us, what the cost of those strategies are, and what the shadow is of those strategies. So this idea of the shadow, if you think about a shadow in your world, it's something that when you turn around, you don't really see it, but it is there. And Rebecca, yeah, no dash, it's all one word, antiresolutionchallenge.com. Yeah, good, Brittany. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So the shadow is something sometimes that other people can see in you, but you don't see in yourself so clearly, which is why I really, really believe and love community and friendship, because when we're in relationship with people that are wanting truth and that are really deeply supportive of each other, we can then gently, lovingly point out our strategies and our shadows to each other. Or we can ask for, what am I not seeing? What are the places that are in the background that I can't see? So yesterday we talked about this idea of the lighter side of the beauty and the gifts of the strategies. So for those of you that are just joining us, those 4 strategies that we're exploring are pleaser, controller, isolator, and distractor. So pleaser, controller, isolator, and distractor. Each of them have a cost and each of them have a gift. So today we're going to be talking more about the cost of getting stuck in those strategies. So as we've been sharing through the anti-resolution challenge, those strategies are connected to ways that we try to keep ourselves safe. So we're not just doing them randomly. We're doing them because we're getting a benefit from them in some way. And we need to understand there's also a cost. And what I've seen is that when we want to make transformation in our lives, we need to understand both the benefit we're getting from something and the cost. The benefit we're getting from the action, because there's a reason we're doing it. So to understand why, and you don't have to understand exactly why or, what did I take on, but you want to have a sense of how am I benefiting from this? Sometimes when we're trying to make change, we go into this place of, I just need to fix this, or I need to stop doing this terrible pattern. But when you can have that place of compassion for yourself that we talked about, in day 2 of the anti-resolution challenge, then we have more capacity to understand there's something we're getting, and in order to release and see what's not serving us, we want to name what the cost is as well as the benefit. And then when you know what the benefit and the costs are, then you can really be clear of like, this is not worth the cost. And it's not worth the benefit's not worth it either. Okay. So we want to be really honest as we explore and understand each of us has shadow. So it's not that you get to a place where you're like evolved beyond any sort of pain or blind spots or struggle, that as we are learning and growing, that each of us has blind spots. Each of us has places that we can't see, and that it's not about judging ourselves for others for the blind spots that they have. It's about learning to listen to what's not being said, learning to look for what is not right in front of us, and getting curious about what are the hidden costs that we might not be able to name, as well as what are the hidden benefits that we haven't seen either. So, all right, before we start talking more about the costs and the shadow of our strategies, let's do a quick review. Hi, Instagram folks, good to see you here. Go ahead and share where you're tuning in from if you want to in the chat. I'm also open to all questions, all and any questions about anything. And in our review of the teachings that are happening in the anti-resolution challenge, one of the reasons I love doing this anti-resolution challenge is because it helps us move away from the old patterns we have of, if I just make a list and finish the list from a place of judgment or force often, then I will be a better person. And what we're working to do in the anti-resolution challenge is, instead of just trying to change the surface behaviors or actions, we're looking at how do we get to the depths to clean up what's holding us back, to create more spaciousness for intuition, inspiration, creative mojo to arise inside of our being. And then we naturally start taking new actions rather than having to kind of force them on ourselves. So let's make more space together. And part of making space within ourselves is to understand that we take on, both through learning, through our own amazing creativity, and also through our bodies, ways that we try to protect ourselves. So here's part of the review, is that there's these 4 main adaptive strategies that we have from an animal point of view. Okay, so from an animal point of view, you've probably heard of the first 3, you might not heard of the 4th one: fight, flee, or freeze. Okay, so those 3, when we're confronted with danger, when our bodies go into fear, when we're not sure what to do, our bodies can instinctually go into fight, flight, or freeze. I'm going to fight whatever it is, I'm going to run away from whatever it is. I freeze, hoping that I'm not going to get in danger. Okay. There's a 4th one that's now starting to be studied more, which is called fawn. And fawning is when we go into trying to please or trying to caretake out here so that our bodies are safe. And those happen, again, often instinctually in response to trauma, in response to the unknown. And they're also connected to what I think of as more psychological, mental states that we go into that create our whole worldview through what I call strategies. And I came up with these strategies many, many years ago, watching myself, watching my students, learning more about how we interact with each other in the places that we can get stuck and stagnant in our lives. And what I noticed is that there was a way that we would go back to a familiar form of taking action that was not helpful. Like, it was helpful in the short run in a way of like, I know what to do in this situation, but not helpful in the long run. So again, those 4 strategies: pleaser, isolator, controller, or distractor. If you want to learn more about those strategies, or if you're like, ooh, this sounds interesting, go join the anti-resolution challenge so that you can get the background. I'm coming on every day to talk a little bit about where we are in the challenge today. And today we're looking at the places that we get stuck in our strategies. And I, again, really like to look at what's the benefit, what's the cost of that place that we're just basically acting from a template. So, again, the shadow is a part of us that we have put behind us. And I think that so often when we don't know how to process information or trauma or fear or the old agreements that we have, that we put things behind us. And in the putting of something behind us, what we're doing is putting it out of our sight, but it can sometimes get really gunky and moldy and stagnant and smelly back there. Okay. And so it's not that we want to take those challenges and always have them and like keep them in front of us so they're stopping us. But we also don't want to try and stick them behind us and pretend they didn't happen or pretend like I'll just keep moving and I'll be able to get away from my past. Probably you have to more consciously bring it to the side of you, take it out of the shadow, and also take it out of like identifying with it completely. This is who I am, putting it in front of you, and put it to the side to start looking at it more clearly. And part of that looking more clearly is what is this costing me? What's the damage that this is causing in my relationships and to myself? So let's explore this for a moment. Pleasers, let's just start there. So, what might be a cost of somebody that is constantly trying to make everybody else happy? Yesterday, we talked about that the benefit, the beauty of a person that tends to go towards pleasing is that when the pleasing part is cleaned up, like at their core, they love being in service, they love sharing, they love giving, and that's a natural part of their being. Where it gets compromised is when we're using it as a safety mechanism. Yeah, exactly, as a safety mechanism. Like, if I just please everyone else, I'll be safe. If I just make everybody happy, the world will run the way it's supposed to. But what happens exactly, Brittany, what happens with pleasers is that they tend to get resentful. And the resentment is, well, I'm taking care of you. Why aren't you taking care of me? Okay, so a lot of pleasers, the shadow is resentment that grows and grows and grows. And the other shadow, yeah, exactly, abandoning yourself. The places where you don't even know who you are because you're so busy trying to figure out what everybody needs or how to be what other people think you should be. Yeah, exactly. And there's another, they're stressed out because everyone isn't happy and you can't make everyone happy. Exactly. Damn it. It'd be so much easier if we could just make everybody happy. Yeah. But the shadow is the belief I can make everyone happy, the resentment that comes after it, the stress, and the that place of never feeling whole and centered inside of yourself because you're always leaning out of yourself towards others. Mhm. Yeah, beautiful. All right, let's talk about controllers. So, controllers, the strategy of a controller is trying to control everything around them to feel safe. And the beauty when you clean up the strategy that we talked about yesterday, hi, you're not late, you're right on time. That when we clean up the strategies, what's underneath that is folks that tend to go towards controlling in a shadow way, when it's cleaned up or what's at their core, is that they often have a really beautiful big picture view of how things work. They're often excellent leaders. Okay, so, but when controlling gets put behind us or put into the shadow, folks that are controllers, what happens? So go ahead and share in the chat. Yeah, exactly. Sakina, anger can build up when you're a controller. So a lot of times what happens with controllers is they get more and more and more frustrated because part of what the narrative that's running in somebody who's a controller is if people just did it the right way, if they just did it the right way, then everything would be fine. If the world just behaved. Okay, so yeah, there's anger and there's frustration, and that can build up and then get put out into the world. Okay, what are some other Shadow sides of controllers are what's some of the cost that can happen for folks that are controllers. Another one is people don't really like being around controllers too much. They feel um, manipulated, and it's the same around pleasers as well. People can feel really manipulated when people are trying to please them constantly, but also when they feel like people are trying to control them. Yeah, exactly, and there's also the judgment. There's also judgment that can happen. Both controllers tend to be more judgmental towards themselves and others. Pleasers tend to feel more victimized towards themselves and see the victim out in the world because they have to save it. Controllers tend to be very judgmental and mean to themselves, and that can spill out to other people as well. Okay. So you can see these are the costs. And when we're willing to name the costs, when we're willing to take the light of our awareness and look at what are the costs of this particular strategy, it gives us more support in starting to transform it. Okay, good. All right, distractors and Hannah. When we set boundaries as pleasers, how do we deal with the people who are upset with us from no longer benefiting from us? That is a great question. Okay, let me go through the other two strategies, and Hannah, then I'll come back to your question because that's part of shadow that can happen as well. Is that we change, and everyone's like, no. Brittany, yes, you can be a mix of strategies for sure. We tend to go towards one or two strategies that are our kind of fallbacks. Yeah. So Hannah, we'll come back to your question. So you can be curious. We all use all of them in different times of our life, but you can also get curious about which is my main strategy. So example, my strategy now that I have to pay attention to and not let to get into the shadow is I tend to go towards controlling as a way to feel safe. When I feel unsafe, I'll try to let me fix this. I used to be, when I was growing up and as a young woman, a pleaser. And that was my whole strategy was I'll just make everybody else happy and it'll be okay. And what I've noticed in myself now is that if the controlling isn't working, I'll go back to being a pleaser. Okay. So that's awareness. It's helpful for me to know so that I can keep an eye on myself. And, you know, truthfully, that when I start getting when I start feeling agitated, I'll usually stop. And I shared about this a couple days ago. Hand on heart, hand on belly. I'll take a breath and I'll be like, "Hi, sweetheart. Okay, you're controlling. What's going on? What are you scared about? What's happening?" So when you know what your main strategy is, you can check in. Am I pleasing? Am I isolating? Am I controlling? Okay. Distractors. So distractors, the strategy is around changing people's perception, making a joke, doing something completely different. So distractors are the gift, like the beauty of someone who tends to go towards distraction is they're often at their core incredibly creative, think in really different ways, can do many things at the same time. They're artists. They're also the rebels and the ones that make change in the world. And because of the way they perceive things in very different ways. And the strategy when they're trying to keep themselves safe is to divert. So the pain I'm going to stop right there. What might be a shadow or the cost for a distractor? Any distractors out there? What might be the cost of distracting all the time? And something to know is that we're in a very distractor society right now, where there's a lot of distraction. Like we're being groomed in a way to be more and more distracted. Hello. Yeah, not taken seriously. Exactly. That is definitely part of the shadow. Hello. Yeah, living in your own head as a distractor. Is distractor the same as avoidance attachment style? It can show up in that way as well, for sure. Yeah, and it's so painful. And yeah, not getting to the root of a problem, never finishing a task or project. Exactly. So that is the pain of distractors. That's the cost of being a distractor, is that often distractors never finish anything. They feel like there's all of these projects that are started that never get completed. There's a sense of never getting to the root of the problem. Yeah, of living in their own head. Exactly. and avoiding all of them. The avoider attachment style, the truth is you can use any of the strategies to avoid. Doesn't always look like it. And pleasers tend to be more, what's that attachment style of cool, insecure attachment. Okay. But not always. You can also use your pleaser as a way to avoid intimacy, right? If you're always doing it out here, nobody ever knows who you are. Yeah, exactly. Distraction helps to keep me numb and not facing whatever. And that's what all of the strategies do. They keep us somewhat numb so that we don't feel, and that we don't have to face whatever is scaring us. Jennifer, Jupiter, thank you. Self-admitted distractor, not really exploring my feelings. Yeah. And again, all strategies, they keep us away from emotions we don't know how to work with, fears that we don't know how to navigate. Yeah. Oh, I'm a distractor, somebody says. How can we make our shadow work healthfully? Great question, Sakina. I'll come back to that one as well. All right, so let's good work with distractors. There's a lot of shadow with distractors. So let's do our final strategy that we're working with, which is isolators. So isolators, the strategy of someone who is an isolator is they pull back. So they disappear. They physically remove themselves from situations, or they pull back and hide, even in plain sight. Okay. So the beauty of people that tend to go to isolating as a strategy when they're in their core and really grounded is there's a deep connection often with spirit and with self. There's an intimacy of listening and beautiful connection that those folks can have if it's cleaned out from the isolator strategy. Okay. So what might be a shadow or a cost of someone who isolates as a way to protect themselves? So go ahead and share. Any isolators out there? Hi, love you. Okay. One of the hidden things that I've found from working with a lot of isolators over the years is that isolators really want to be seen. Okay. Yes, and one of the costs can be feeling lonely. Yeah. Yeah, ignoring those closest to them, not being able to connect, lack of ability to help, to ask for help. Yeah, exactly. Forgotten, loneliness. Yeah. Okay, great. Great question. So what would be if someone with complex PTSD and distract and isolate when trigger related to the trauma survived in the aftermath? I will go into that question as well. Great, great question. Yeah, the isolators can feel forgotten, that no lack of communication, want to have reach out the way they would. Okay, so I think what I'm hearing you say, Sarah, is they want to be reached, they want to be connected, but they don't know how. Yeah, avoidance. Yeah. So, and again, the cost of being an isolator is often isolators feel really disconnected. They feel, yeah, ignored. They yearn for a deep connection, but it's rare that they find it. And that's not exactly, I don't want to put it that way because that's not true. Here's the thing, like isolators get really frustrated with chit chat. Like if you can actually sit down with an isolator and open with a thoughtful, deep question, they'll be like, yes. Okay. But they want to be seen and they want to drop in with other people. Yeah, exactly. They want to receive the same energy that they would give other people. Yeah, beautiful. So one of the things that I do in workshops around these strategies that's so powerful, and you all can get a little bit of a sense of it. One of the things that we do is we break, when I have a room full of people, we break into smaller groups of the strategies. So there's a group that's of isolators, there's a group of pleasers, a group of distractors, and a group of controllers. And that allows each of the strategies to talk to each other about what the benefits, why their strategies is the best strategy. We play a game. and then also at what the cost is. And what I notice is that when we talk about the costs, we get more real. And it then allows us to bring in the energy that we need, that we're going to need to start changing the strategy when we see what the cost is. Yeah, and Sarah, all of us have parts of each of these strategies. Okay. So for some of you, they all may feel familiar in different situations, and then you can get curious as you move through your life. Which one do you tend to go towards the most, or what situations? Because it may be at work, you need to be a controller because that's what you're being paid to do, is to control what's happening. But what shows up is you show up as a pleaser sometimes when you get scared. Or it may be that in your personal life, you're really an isolator and that you don't even realize it because of whatever reason. So just think about these as ways to become more intimate with yourself and to get really curious about who you are and how you navigate in the world. And what are the costs of the unconscious ways that you're responding to things? Yeah. All right. So let's go answer some of the questions and any other questions that you have. But you can see what we're looking at is the costs of the strategy and looking at the shadow, how they cause harm for us and in our relationships. All right. Give me a second. I'm going to go back. There was a couple questions. All right. So when we set boundaries as pleasers, how do we deal with the people who are upset with us from no longer benefiting from us? Okay. Whenever we shift any one of the strategies, when you start recognizing what the cost of a strategy is, and you then commit to the pathway of changing it, because it doesn't just change like that. Okay, it takes time to change a strategy. This has been a way you've kept yourself safe. So undoing that takes some time to find a new way to create a sense of comfort and ease and staying with yourself, not avoiding emotions, not trying to change, but to really learn how to be with yourself. So what happens is that in our relationships, we we can have patterns that get locked together. So like often a pleaser will get in a relationship with a controller, a match made in heaven, because the pleaser then tries to, you know, please the controller and the controller tries to control the pleaser. And it works for a while, but it has costs for both people. And this is true for all the strategies. And this is why I love the strategies, because we don't want to use them as a way to judge people more or judge ourselves more. We're using it as a way to get information. So you can have more compassion for yourself and for somebody else that's in a strategy. And to understand that as you undo strategies, what you might find is that people want you to go back to the strategy. They're familiar with you being a pleaser, or they feel safer if you're controlling everything. Okay. Or they don't know how to show up if you suddenly start to undo the ways that you're isolating or the ways that you're distracting. And so that's one of the things that we understand is that as we heal, it may shake up our relationships. And what's the right word? What feels like safety, but is actually based on strategy and not on real deep truth relationships. So, one of the things, if you have an intimate relationship and you're undoing something, one of the things that can be helpful is to go to your partner or your friend. And this is if if you have an intimate relationship with someone, to say, hey, I'm learning about strategies, I'm realizing that I tend to go towards pleasing, and I'm going to start shifting that, and it might get messy for a while. Okay. And so sometimes giving people a heads up, like I'm shifting things, I'm going to start changing things, allows them to metabolize it and to understand why you are changing it. Okay. So that doesn't always work. Sometimes you just have to do it and then show up. If the relationship is important to you, you show up with their discomfort without changing your behavior. We learn, and this is the thing, is that as we get stronger inside of ourselves, we learn how to be okay with other people and our own discomfort. We stop trying to avoid it. I hope that helps. All right, another question. How can we make our shadow work healthier? So, how we bring more healing to the shadow is through our awareness. To understand all of us have shadow parts, that we don't need to try and push them down or hide them, that we actually want to bring them next to us so that we can make conscious choice. So healing with the shadow isn't pretending like I don't have any shadow, or putting that shadow in front of us all the times that we start identifying with, well, it's just the way I am. But that we're curious about how do we best support ourselves in keeping our shadow, it's not the right word, in bringing our shadow aside us so we can be at choice with it. Mhm. Yeah. All right. So, question. So, what would be if someone with complex PTSD and distract and isolate when triggered related to the trauma survived in the aftermath? Okay. So, when we're talking about PTSD, complex trauma, trauma in any way, this we want to understand that goes more to fight, flee, freeze, and fawn, to those bodily reactions. The strategies are created by the agreements that we make. Something like PTSD is created from a trauma response. So you can notice when I get triggered into PTSD, do I go towards fight, flee, freeze, or fawn? And how is that connected to distracting or isolating? And again, all of these ways are ways that we're trying to keep ourselves safe. So with PTSD, with complex, or is there any non-complex trauma? I don't think so. That we then need to really let our bodies know, not our mind. Our minds are not so helpful in this case, right? But our bodies know you're safe. Hi, sweetheart, we're here. So you want to do somatic work. You can have the awareness that you go towards those strategies or those bodily responses. And then the medicine is supporting and loving yourself through and understanding it's a nervous system transformation rather than a mental transformation. Okay. And I know that you had a follow up with that. Caden. Sometimes it's such a mixture depending on how safe one feels with the environment. Exactly. Those around us, survival learned behaviors. Learning to trust can be open. Those who want to truly help be open, vulnerable. Exactly. Exactly. And what we're working to stabilize inside of ourselves more is that we are trustworthy and safe for ourselves. So, of course, we want to create safer situations and people that can help hold us. And we also want to build our own capacity to stop abandoning ourselves or to come back home to ourselves as quickly as possible. So, let me talk about two examples with that. If I'm a pleaser and then I start judging myself fiercely because I'm pleasing all the time and I start becoming more aware of where I'm pleasing and then punishing myself, that's a form of abandonment. The pleasing itself is a form of abandonment, but then judging myself for pleasing is, yay, more abandonment. It's not healing. And it's the same thing with something like PTSD. When we become aware of the places that we're disassociating or that we're having bodily reactions, we can then judge ourselves and abandon ourselves for what's happening in our nervous system, or we can love ourselves through it. So, all of these, they're mechanisms for us to feel safe. And part of how we grow ourselves in our sense of safety is to change how we're in relationship to ourself at a fundamental level, that we're learning how to be unconditionally loving and respectful and present with ourselves, that we're letting go of the old patterns and habits we've learned about abandoning ourselves, which means that we show up with where we are rather than where we wish we were. It takes time. And that's what we're doing in the anti-resolution challenge, is learning how to untangle and create more space, because at your core, you are deeply wise. You have wisdom, you have wildness, you have creativity, you have inspiration. It's clearing to make space for that yumminess that's already inside of you. It's not like you have to fix something so you can go get something outside of yourself to bring in. It's already there. You're already there. It's about tending to the soil of your being. Mhm. Another question, please, or how to feel into what I want first versus feeling into what others want. Good question. Yes. So the great, thanks, Hannah. There's another question there. Okay, how do I feel into what I want first? So if you understand the cost and the shadow of pleasing, it then what you realize is that pleasing is a short-term game, basically. You might please somebody in the short run, but you cannot please people all the time, and it has a huge cost to you, and it also has a huge cost in the long run with in a relationship. So if, let's say, you're pleasing somebody and you're not telling them the truth, so you're like, well, I don't want to tell them the truth and I'll just say something that'll make them feel better. That's going to come out eventually and be more difficult to clean up. And so, again, to feel into what the costs are and then to slowly take new actions to learn, what do I want? And it's going to take time. And what I always say about learning to create change is that there's a really uncomfortable part, which is around becoming aware of your habits and patterns, becoming aware of your strategy, but not yet having enough energy to change it. So, in the work that I do, I was really blessed to study with a lot of incredible teachers in both European shamanic tradition as well as Toltec wisdom, which is based in South and Central Mexico. And the Toltec, I was I'm part of and guided by Don Miguel Ruiz, who's the author of the Four Agreements. And that wisdom is deeply connected to energy and the ways that we hold energy in our beings. And part of the process of change is understanding we have the awareness is the first path of change. We have to become aware of what we're doing and what the costs and the benefits are. And then the transformation process is having the energy to make the change. So awareness is critical, but it's not enough. And there's a frustrating part in the process where we have the awareness of what we're doing, but we don't have the energy to change it yet. So just be aware of that. So you may watch yourself pleasing people and feel the cost, but not be quite sure how to get out of it. Take little actions. So notice where you're pleasing. For example, this is true with any of the strategies, uh, and and then run experiments. Like, what do I like? One of the things I tell pleasers that are like have been pleasing their whole lives and don't know any other way to be is to do really simple things like go into the grocery store and look at the fruit. What fruit do you like? What color? What, just really little things. Oh, I think I like apples more than oranges. And so you start learning about yourself. So much of the medicine is more self intimacy and compassion with yourself. Mhm. Hey, Kathy. All right. Another question from Hannah. How do we help those who isolate, or how can we connect with them and show them they are safe? So it's really about, and I think this is true with all strategies and especially with isolators, is you calming your nervous system down, not expecting anything, not pushing, and to to slow your energy down often to meet somebody else. So often isolators are, again, they want to be seen, they want to go deep, and it also is really, it can be unfamiliar because they're not sure, like, wait a minute, who are you, what are you doing? So if you slow your energy down and learn how to sit in stillness and sit in silence and ask curious open-hearted questions, that will help build a trust with an isolator. And it's going to take time, yeah, exactly, to meet them where they're at. Yeah, to not try and change them, to not try and just fill space, but to be. Mhm. Yeah, great, Joe. Beautiful awareness. Okay. You're so welcome. Yeah, Joe, I'm learning how to love all aspects of myself, both light and dark. Yes, and that is the key. That's what makes it really work. Hi, Cloud Mountain. Is there one of your books that speaks about the strategies? There is. So, my book, Warrior Goddess Training, has the strategies in it. And I also talk about the strategies in my last book, which is called The Warrior Heart Practice. So, those are two resources you can go to. You can also join the Anti Resolution Challenge, where we talk a lot about the strategies. The Anti Resolution Challenge, you can join at any time. We're on day 4, and you can go today or tomorrow and go watch the previous videos. They're short, they're like 8 to 10 minutes. And learn more about these strategies. But for those of you that are like, I want to read Warrior Heart Practice, or I introduce the strategies in the Warrior Goddess Training book. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Reiki Art Love. Mhm. Okay. As well as learning and accepting self care is important and vital. Unconditionality accept is okay to do. Unconditionally love yourself more through instead of feeling guilty. Yeah, definitely. Setting healthy boundaries. True. Hi, Elizabeth. Good. I'm so glad. I love the anti-resolution challenge. No, we did it last year and it was so people had such huge breakthroughs and insights that we decided to bring it back again. So really grateful to be doing it this year. All right. Okay, recently I've become more aware of myself and my relationship with my family, and I realize being the fifth out of six is also why my core is a distractor. Yes. Yeah. So again, this learning how to do self intimacy is a practice of learning how to respect where we are, where we came from, what we've learned, what we were modeled, and what we also call the dream of the planet, which is what we're all swimming in. And the dream of the planet's pretty much based in fear and scarcity on the most part. So that's we're all undoing some level of that in our being. Hannah, to join the anti-resolution challenge, you want to go to antiresolutionchallenge.com, all one word, antiresolutionchallenge.com, and join there. And you can also go, if you're on Instagram, you can go to my profile link and click the profile link, and it'll take you directly to the place to click for the anti-resolution challenge. So for those of you that haven't joined yet, you can join anytime. We're in the middle of what is my 7-day anti-resolution challenge, all free. Just go join, super easy, put your email in, boom, you'll get stuff. And if you're part of the anti-resolution challenge and you haven't gotten an email or something, a link isn't working, go check your spam, reboot, refresh your browser. You're welcome, Hannah. Yeah. And there's a lot of great resources in the anti-resolution challenge. Is respecting someone pleasing? No, different things. Yeah, absolutely. Pamela, I said no to my mother for the first time ever today, but I prepared for it. I was so scared, but she accepted it. Yay! Good job. I love that. That's great. How do you best deal with controllers? Oh, okay, controllers. So to have compassion for controllers, to understand they don't feel safe. And one of the best ways I found to work with controllers is for me internally to one, have compassion that they don't feel safe, and also to, I don't know how to explain this exactly, but it's like to stay light with things and just be like, nope, that's not going to work for me. Instead of trying to fight back against a controller, which doesn't usually go well, there's just this like, nope, there's a lightness that you can bring. Sometimes I found that teasing controllers that have some level of awareness really helps break up the energy. Yeah. Yeah. Good. My partner's broken up with me and has given me silent treatment, will not talk on the phone, but blames me for everything. So, what's more important is, can you not blame yourself and not judge yourself? And learn, and heartbreak is so hard, so I'm not meaning to say this lightly because I know how painful it is when your heart is feels crushed, when you feel dropped, when you feel not seen. And what do you need separate from your partner? What do you need to heal your heart? Not what does your partner need to do to make you feel better? What do you need to heal your heart? What is your heart yearning for from you? Yeah. We need to really slow down and just heartbreak takes time. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. But you don't have to give yourself the silent treatment. You can really use this as a way to deepen your intimacy with yourself and not beat yourself up or punish yourself about what happened or replay the stories about what happened. What do I need? What do I need? What do I need? Elizabeth, the challenge is blowing my mind. Such fantastic content. Sweet daily nuggets. I know. I love it. Good. I'm glad you're loving it, Elizabeth. Keep sharing it. But what if I am controlling some things? Like, again, you want to look at benefit and cost. Sometimes there's places that we need to direct where things are happening. The difference is, are you able to let go and be like, okay, it's not working out that way? Or do you hold on like it must work out this way? And this is true with all of the strategies. You might be like, I really want to please that person, but if they're not pleased, that's okay. Then you're not in the strategy. The strategy, like what really causes the suffering, is they're not being pleased. It's really bad. I have to make sure I have to change who I am in order to please them. The level of attachment, we can say, is what we want to look at. Yeah, beautiful. So my mother falls under controllers, and I want to do everything to make her feel safe. Thank you for the information. Yeah, I'm really trying to lead by example and show her there's another way. Yeah, and she'll get it or she won't. My dad was a big, big controller, and it took me a long time to realize that's he doesn't know how else to be. And when I got that, it was just it just became funny in a way, and not like funny like I'm gonna poke at him, but just like, "Oh, there he goes again." Like, it was sweet in a way. I was like, "Oh, yeah, there goes my dad." And and I think that also this is part of how we also help each other heal instead of going into judgment and fury or just, like, letting ourselves be run over. We find our core and we show up with people, but we also set boundaries in a loving way. We also reflect back of like, "That's not gonna work for me," or, "How can we do this in a way that helps you feel safe?" And humor is so helpful, especially humor with yourself. Key to find, and again, this is a deep practice, is finding the humor, which comes from loving yourself, with finding that you're doing your best. We're all doing our best. And we can continue to grow and change, but we have to be willing to look at the shadow and find community and support where we can be held. All right, good. Yeah. So, one of the things that we are navigating again in the anti resolution challenge is how to be in new relationship with ourselves and others. And we're going to be sharing in the challenge a really special offer about our community, the Warrior Goddess Training Circle. And I'm also going to do a couple giveaways. So if you're not part of the Anti Resolution Challenge, go sign yourself up. There's tremendous, easily digestible nuggets of information there. And there's also a special offer that we'll be sharing about the Warrior Goddess Training Circle and this workshop that I have coming up called Reclaim. So Reclaim Your Being it's Reclaim Your Power is a map. It's one of the most potent maps that I've found of how did we get where we're at and how to untangle and create more spaciousness in our life. It's a really beautiful 4-day, or sorry, 4-day, 3-hour workshop. We broke it into 2 pieces. So when you sign up for the Anti-Resolution Challenge, you'll also get an invitation to have a month in the Warrior Goddess Training Circle for free and get Reclaim for free. So sign yourself up. We'll share more information about that. I'm at a friend's house Yes, isn't the tree great? So beautiful. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. I recently left from a toxic, manipulative environment because of 20-year friendship. That behavior then became guilt tripping, narcissist tactic to try to control me. I refuse to risk my help. Yeah, sometimes we have to make boundaries, and the reminder for all of us is that we need to learn how to make boundaries with ourself, with our mind, with others from a place of love. That we don't need to make other people evil or wrong, wait to do it until we're about to explode. We can learn to be more present around what works and what doesn't, to be more compassionate to ourselves and others, and to make cleaner and clearer boundaries. Mhm. Okay, a couple more questions. I grew up in an alcoholic and dysfunctional home. My default is distractor and pleaser. This is also comes out as an eating disorder. The challenge has been a gift. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, and how do we hold ourselves when we've had, dysfunctional or alcoholic homes that we've grown up with that have their complexities and pain? And to see the only way that we can create change if we take responsibility for how we are in the world. That doesn't mean blame, it means responsibility. That we are the ones that are going to change things and not change our parents, but to lovingly transform our relationship with self. Mhm. Humor does absolutely help. My beloved is an excellent model for this. I've gotten to a point where so many things are funny to me now. It does break up the energy a lot. It does. Yeah. Yeah. Good. I'm so glad to hear that you are able to stand your ground, sweetheart, and hold a boundary. Yes. Good, 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 good. All right. I'm glad, Doe, that you're able to join us and be here. All right, loves, I'm gonna go into the rest of my day and play with my friend Onyx, and it's snowing outside. It's so beautiful. So maybe go for a walk. Sending you all lots of love on this Saturday, day 4 of the Anti-Resolution Challenge. If you haven't joined the Anti-Resolution Challenge, it's not too late. Antiresolutionchallenge.com. There's a lot of other yumminess that comes with it. I know a lot of you are already in the circle, so you know how powerful the teachings are. And I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure at what time yet, but I'll figure it out. It'll probably be about this time, doing a little bit later than I was doing it before. But stay around, and I'll let you know when I tune in live. How can we hold boundaries with our mind? Okay, I'm going to answer that question tomorrow. It's a great question, so I'll bring that one in tomorrow. And I'll say that I might do tomorrow earlier, so I'll let y'all know. You're so welcome, sweet ones. Okay, I love it. Take good care, everyone, and we will talk to you tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday. I'll be back live for the next 4 or 5 days, and then I'm gonna kind of disappear again because I love coming and doing the lives, and I also love then go back into my writing realm. It's 1:30 a.m. here. Oh, I'm so glad you could join us, sweetheart. Good. Yeah, I'll come on a little bit earlier tomorrow. All right. Bye, sweet ones. Take good care.